They were found frozen, barefoot, and terrified, as if they'd been running from something no human eye was ever meant to see. February 1959, 9 experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led by Igor Dyatlov, set out into the icy mountains of northern Russia. Their goal, reach Taured Peak. It was supposed to be a routine expedition. They took photos, laughed in the snow, sang songs around the fire. Everything seemed fine until they made camp on the slope of a mountain the locals called Kalatsyach. In Mansi, that means the Mountain of the Dead. Days later, when they failed to return, rescuers were sent. What they found didn't make sense. The group's tent was half buried in snow, but it had been cut open from the inside. Inside were their clothes, their boots, their food, untouched. Outside, footprints, bare feet in the snow, leading down into the forest. The first 2 bodies were found under a cedar tree, barefoot, in their underwear, frozen solid. The next 3 scattered between the forest and the tent, as if they'd been crawling back to camp. But the last 4, they were buried deeper in the snow, and that's where the nightmare really began. One woman's tongue was missing. Another's eyes were gone, their ribs crushed, not from a fall, but with the force of a car crash. Yet there were no external wounds, as if something had smashed them from the inside. And then came the radiation. Their clothes tested positive for radioactive material. The snow around them glowed faintly under UV light, and nobody could explain why. The official report said they died of an unknown compelling force. That's the phrase, unknown compelling force. Witnesses in nearby villages reported strange orange lights in the sky that night, silent hovering orbs. Others claimed the Soviet military was testing secret weapons. Some said the hikers saw something they weren't supposed to. And whatever it was, it made them run, tear through their tent, and face the freezing dark rather than stay another second inside. Their film rolls were recovered. Most were normal. Smiling faces, campfires, snow. But the last photo shows blurry light streaks across the trees and a figure half visible behind the glare. No one ever figured out what it was. The mountain was closed to travelers for years. When it reopened, climbers said compasses went haywire, animals refused to cross the snowfield, and at night, the wind carried voices. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the case, calling it an avalanche. But the slopes didn't match, the damage didn't fit, and even today, forensic experts say there's no way the scene could have looked like that. Whatever made those 9 people run into the frozen dark that night, it didn't leave tracks, it didn't leave evidence, just silence. And one of the rescuers, years later, admitted something that he'd never told the press. When they cut into the tent, the inside smelled like ozone, like air after lightning. And on the last page of Igor Dyatlov's journal, scribbled in haste, was a single line. We know now, they are real. No one knows who they were. But if you ever visit the Dyatlov Pass, locals will warn you, when the wind howls just right, don't look toward the tree line, because something still looks back. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from.
In 1954, a man arrived in Tokyo carrying a passport from a country that doesn't exist. Hours later, he vanished from a locked room without leaving a single trace behind. If that sounds impossible, that's because it is. Tokyo's Haneda Airport was boiling with life that summer afternoon. Suitcases thumping across polished tile, flight announcements echoing overhead, the sharp smell of jet fuel drifting in every time the doors opened. Businessmen steamed past each other, clerks hammered at typewriters, and the line at Immigration Booth 4 stretched halfway across the hall. And then, he stepped into the line. A man in a tailored gray suit, trim beard, hair slicked neatly to the side, silver cufflinks glinting under fluorescent lights. Calm, collected. Not confused like most travelers, but irritated. Like this airport was an inconvenience he had endured many times before. When he reached the counter, he slid his passport forward with casual confidence. The officer opened it and froze. The paper felt real, the watermark was real, the stamps were real. France, Germany, the UK, all legitimate entries and exits. Everything looked normal until he read the country of origin, Taured. The officer blinked, looked again, ran the thumb across the ink as if expecting it to smudge. Taured wasn't a place. Not then, not now, not ever. Trying to keep his voice steady, the officer asked, "Sir, where is this country located?" The man frowned, genuinely confused. He said, "It's between France and Spain. You call it Andorra, we call it Taured." He even pulled out maps from his briefcase. Detailed, printed maps, each one marking a tiny nation named Taured, exactly where Andorra should be. But when they showed him the airport's wall map, the man's confidence cracked. His eyes darted across the borders. His breath grew lighter. His fingers trembled. He whispered, "Where is it?" As if someone erased it. Officials escorted him away. Not roughly, but cautiously, like he was a puzzle that needed careful handling. He answered every question calmly at first. He was a businessman. He had been visiting Japan for 5 years. He had a hotel reservation downtown. He had meetings scheduled with major corporations. He even had a bank account in Tokyo, a real one. Except when they called the bank, they had never heard of him. And every time they told him something didn't exist. His country, his contacts, his company, the man grew quieter, frightened. The kind of fear that doesn't scream, it curls inside your chest and starts pulling everything down with it. Officials placed him in a hotel room, used for secure holding, 4th floor. Heavy wooden door. 2 guards outside around the clock. No balcony, no fire escape, a window sealed shut. "We'll solve this in the morning," they told him. He nodded, exhausted, defeated. He sat on the edge of the bed and whispered under his breath, "I've been here before. This shouldn't be happening." Morning came. The guards were still at their post. They had seen no one enter, no one leave. But when the door was unlocked, the man from Taured was gone. Not escaped, not fled, just gone. His clothes were folded on the chair. His briefcase was missing. His passport, the impossible passport, vanished. No signs of forced entry, no disturbed sheets, no footprints, nothing. They checked the window, still latched. They checked the hallway cameras, no movement. They searched every floor, every room, every stairwell, every maintenance tunnel. He had evaporated. Officials panicked quietly, the kind of panic that gets hidden in government drawers. Files were sealed, reports rewritten, witnesses silenced with bland statements like clerical error and miscommunication, but there were details they couldn't explain. One guard insisted he heard a faint humming sound around 3 a.m., like electricity buzzing behind the walls. A maid swore she smelled warm metal in the hallway, the same scent left behind after lightning strikes. And then there was the desk. On its wooden surface, carved jaggedly, not clean, not orderly, but desperate, was a single word: home. The question mark was sharp enough to splinter the wood. No one could say when it was carved. No one heard anything. No one saw anyone enter. And official records of that room? Corrupted, missing pages, timestamps erased. As if someone or something corrected the mistake. To this day, the man from Taured has never reappeared. No country has ever claimed him. No database has ever matched his fingerprints. People say he slipped through dimensions. Others say he was a traveler from a parallel world who fell into ours by accident and then found his way back. But if that's true, it means the barrier between worlds isn't as solid as we think, and sometimes someone slips through.
Was last seen standing beside her crashed car, calm, quiet, and refusing help, as if she was waiting for someone only she could see. Minutes later, she vanished into the frozen darkness, and the road that took her has never given her back. The night Maura Murray disappeared, the cold was the kind that bites straight into your bones. Snow drifted across Route 1112 in thin, white sheets, and the entire stretch of road felt like the world had folded in on itself, empty. Silent, swallowing sound. Around 7 p.m., Maura's black Saturn slid off a sharp curve and hit a snowbank. But what witnesses saw next still doesn't make sense. A local bus driver pulled over to help. Maura stood outside her car, her arms wrapped around herself, shivering, but strangely composed. Her breath floated in the cold like smoke as she told him, "I already called AAA." She hadn't. There was no cell reception, no record, no call. The bus driver offered again, insisting she come wait inside his warm bus until police arrived. Maura shook her head. She wanted to stay, alone, in the dark. When he drove off, he looked back one last time.
Maura was still standing there, one hand resting on the roof of her crashed car, staring down the empty road like she expected someone to appear. By the time police arrived minutes later, Maura was gone. Not gone as in walked away. Gone as in vanished. Her footprints stopped abruptly in the snow. No drag marks, no stride, just stopped. Like she had stepped off the face of the earth. Inside her car, police found things that made even less sense. Her credit cards and phone were missing, but her textbooks were neatly stacked on the back seat. Her dorm room had been cleaned out earlier that day, drawers emptied. On her computer, the last search she made was for directions to a place she never arrived. And then there's the biggest mystery, the red truck. Neighbors reported seeing a red pickup idling near the crash site moments after she disappeared. Engine running, lights off, no plate number, no driver description. Gone before anyone could identify it. Some swear they heard a woman scream in the woods that night. Others insist Maura was picked up willingly by someone she knew or someone she was trying to escape from. But the real WTF moment, a discovery investigators kept quiet for years. A phone call was made to Maura's dorm room 3 days after she vanished. The caller ID read unknown. When Maura's boyfriend answered, he heard nothing but a low, shaky breathing, and then a click. To this day, no one knows who made that call.